when you feel that there is an aggressive environment around you, then it will encourage you to shield yourself with luxury goods. One of the drivers of consumption here is this feeling of social anxiety.
Hello and welcome to ESCP Edge, the video podcast series that brings you insights from ESCP professors at the forefront of business research. My name is Nick Taylor, and I'm joined today by Perrine Desmichel, who is the Assistant Professor of Marketing and Co-Director of the Global Research Alliance in Luxury. Hi, thanks for joining us, Perrine.
Hi.
Do you want to start by just introducing yourself and telling us a bit about your research?
Yes, for sure. So I'm Assistant Professor at ESCP, and I'm specialized in luxury marketing because I'm fascinated by how the pursuit of status and power can then translate into what we buy, what we display as consumers, including, of course, luxury goods. And I've been also co-directing the Grail Research Center together with my colleague Ben Voyer. And this is a research center that is hosted at ESCP Business School, but brings together a worldwide community of scholars specialized in the field of luxury management in order to generate and discuss cutting-edge research ideas.
Okay, great. Well, let's dive into that. First, what is luxury? How do we define it? Is it something about how much something costs or the way it's made?
So the concept of luxury is, first of all, a social construction. So what is considered luxury depends on the social group someone belongs to. It depends on the socioeconomic context, the cultural context. It depends as well on the customer expertise and tastes, but it also depends, of course, on the income level of consumers. And what I'm interested in my research is how these luxury goods are perceived and what do people associate with these luxury goods. And for instance, in one of my research, I found that when consumers display the latest releases of the luxury brands, they're perceived as more creative, and then they're perceived as higher in achieved status than when they purchase and display iconic pieces from the same brands. So it shows that not all luxury goods are made equal. And it's interesting to understand the perception of these luxury goods. I would also add that the word luxury is overused today. And sometimes marketers are confused and they tend to think that only by using this label of luxury and tagging a product as luxurious, they will increase the willingness to pay of consumers, forgetting that what really brings consumer to purchase goods is the value that is offered by the brand and by the product.
Has the idea of what is luxury changed over the years? And I'm thinking back 150 years up until the present day, and how's that impacted by the way things are made and the way things are marketed?
Of course, the concept of luxury is transient. So what was luxury in terms of product categories mainly? What was luxury yesterday is not the same as what will be luxury today. But what doesn't change over time is that luxury goods are signaling high status and are reserved to the happy fews.
What other trends and changes do you see impacting luxury right now in the luxury sector? And what does that tell us about the wider business sector?
So first, what we see is that there seems to be a crisis of relevance for some luxury brands. Although the luxury market has been performing very well over the last few decades, we see that for the first time since the economic crisis of 2008, there is a contraction of the luxury market, which raises the question of why. And of course, there are a lot of explanation behind geopolitical reasons, economic reasons. But what is important to keep in mind is that today consumers no longer want and are willing to pay for conspicuous goods just because they want to display and signal some financial wealth. So they need more. And they need also to feel that they are paying the fair price, which was not necessarily the case before. And there is a social risk in signaling, in showing off products that are low in value and just high in price. So if we translate it to the theory of capitals of Pierre Bourdieu, for instance, I would say that luxury brands should stop and should no longer offer products that are only high in economic value, in economic capital. And they should think about other capitals, other arguments for selling and offering their goods. And for instance, some luxury goods are instruments of social capital. And we see indeed that the high-end hospitality market is performing quite well in this time of crisis. Moreover, we could think that some luxury goods are instruments of cultural capital. And I would say that luxury should remain more than ever related and associated with the world of art and craftsmanship. And even beyond, we see a trend where consumers like to learn things, learn how to even do and make their own things. And so it would be an avenue for marketers to think about and maybe to be even more educators of good taste for these consumers.
Can you unpack that idea of social capital? I understand the idea of craftsmanship and artisanal excellence, but how does a physical good have social capital?
Luxury goods or luxury maison can bring consumers together. For instance, they can organize social events. They can also offer the opportunity to share an event together with a friend. And so some brands are, like most of the brands, are creating these events where they gather luxury consumers, and these events are perceived more as networking opportunities sometimes. So we could think about this kind of practices.
We've been talking about luxury and how in the past it was kind of about something very, very expensive and being able to purchase that. It was a symbol of how much money you had. But you've also written about things like social anxiety and how we might use luxury in order to protect ourselves from certain forms of social anxiety. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, in one of my research, I checked and tried to find in which contexts luxury consumers are more eager to display their conspicuous goods, such as a luxurious watch, for instance, at work. And what we found in this paper is that the key trigger for the consumption of conspicuous goods is the presence of dominant behaviors. And so when you feel threatened in some way, when you feel that there is an aggressive environment around you, then it will encourage you to shield yourself with luxury goods. And so really one of the drivers of consumption here is this feeling of social anxiety.
Now, you mentioned dominance there, and I've seen in your work the idea of dominance versus prestige hierarchies. Could you define those for us?
So research has found that there are two main ways to acquire status, to gain status in a hierarchy. One is through dominance, so showing that you're the strongest, using aggressive, manipulative techniques. And this is something that, although we may dislike, we see still present today. And the other way is through prestige. So when you have a legitimate skill, competence, and that you will use it to serve the group.
How is that? How are those two things used by luxury marketers or luxury brands?
From a marketing perspective, we see that there is a question for marketers of creating the right assortment of products in their stores. And the assortment may not be the same across the world. And this kind of insights from my research could be useful to understand where to push conspicuous pieces versus more quiet pieces. Also, the project I was referring to on latest collection versus iconic pieces is instructive to know how to create your assortment that is a mix of iconic pieces and more latest collection pieces.
Okay, you mentioned there quiet luxury. That seems to me to be quite a recent thing where maybe people are fatigued by the amount of logos or by having enormous, very, very prominent logos on garments and handbags. How does that affect marketing, and how does that affect the behavior of luxury brands?
I feel that it may seem new, but actually it's more cyclical. So we see that depending also on the economic cycles, consumers are more looking for quiet pieces versus conspicuous pieces. And we can think about art. There are some artistic movements that are really baroque, really conspicuous in a way, and some more classical movements that are more quiet in a way. And so I don't feel that this is new. It has been a negative signal to showcase and to show off your financial wealth and opulence, especially in a market where social media are so important and present, because there is a social risk in showing off, in using like signals that are too conspicuous. It says something to yourself that may backfire on you actually on social media or in social context overall.
If you have a social media channel and you cover yourself with LV logos, LV must hate that, because the channel is not, the quality is too low. They don't want to be associated with people covering themselves with logos and brands. But at the same time, they're selling their goods this way. So is there a tension there that, essentially they want the right people to buy their brands?
Yeah, luxury products need to remain exclusive and to be perceived as exclusive and scarce. And scarcity is one of the reasons why people are willing to pay so much for these products. However, we see that some luxury brands have decided to open up and to become more accessible to, we talk about the appearance of democratic luxury. But in some way, some of these brands are maybe thinking again what is the right strategy, because we see that some brands are now struggling in terms of financial results. Also because they built their strategy on opening their goods to a new clientele that is younger and that doesn't have the same financial means. But then it creates some fatigue, as you said. And then the core customer base is disappointed as well and may switch to other brands. So this is the risk.
And what about counterfeits? That must also be an enormous source of risk for luxury brands. If we think 150 years ago, you had something and it was luxury and expensive because it took enormous amounts of hours and workmanship to go into it. And it couldn't be replicated easily by a machine. But now, if we're talking about a logo, anyone can have a T-shirt with any logo on it or any combination of logos for almost no money at all. So how do luxury brands deal with that? How do they protect themselves in a world where everything is reproducible for very little money?
Luxury brands do fight against counterfeits a lot because this is the value of their brand that is really damaged by this alternative market. However, what is interesting in this phenomenon is that now consumers, while before consumer would hide that they are purchasing goods that are fake because there was a social cost associated with this behavior, we see that today consumers are more comfortable with the idea of purchasing counterfeited goods.
Is that right?
And they are also consuming dupes, for instance, a lot. So products that are not exactly counterfeits because they don't have the brand label on it, but look or smell for perfume exactly the same. And even it has become a way as a consumer to express that you're sometimes against these dominant luxury conglomerates, which is very, very new, actually, and very novel. And so it means that luxury brands have to fight even harder these new trends and be educators in this domain to explain the risks that are associated with counterfeit goods and the damage for the brand value.
So dupes, this is an idea that I'd only come across for the first time in your writing, but it's essentially they're replicas of luxury products, but without the branding. So they're not trying to fool anyone and say, we're a Birkin, but they are a Birkin-shaped leather handbag. Now, I mean, that's interesting. And you say that people are for the first time approaching those and almost proudly displaying the fact that I got something that looks like a very expensive handbag and functions like a very expensive handbag, but it hasn't got the logo, so it's a lot less expensive. Are you saying that's almost becoming something people would be proud of and would display?
Exactly. Would even there is the new phenomenon of smart luxury consumers. So they would explain on social media. There is a lot of #dupes posts to explain how I found this wonderful handbag or wonderful fragrance that is that cost me really some little money and that look exactly the same as a luxury product. So there is a lot of that on social media.
Okay, so what sort of research are you working on right now, and what would you most like to examine and look into in the future?
What I'm studying today is how luxury brands address the challenge of circularity in their business model. And I would say that it's very interesting because in the definition of luxury, something that is key is this notion of timelessness, right? And you transpires from some slogan like you never own a certain watch, you only look after it for the next generation, or a diamond is forever. However, when we look closer, we see that the promise of timelessness is not entirely kept. Why is that? For two main reasons. First, luxury brands are not equipped to repair or upcycle vintage pieces, and they focus on selling first-hand goods. And second, in my research, I found that a majority of consumers underuse the inherited luxury goods that they may receive through their grandparents or their family members. And it means that there are a lot of market opportunities here to help consumers transition from this really linear way of consuming goods to a more circular way of consuming goods. And I think it's important to really create this connection with a brand, not only for one purchase, but over time through maybe generations of consumers, actually.
So you're talking about if somebody inherits a handbag which is 50 years old, but is still, a beautiful classic piece, your research has found they're less likely to use that so frequently than they are something that is new or last season or relatively recent. What's the reason for that, do you think?
What is very interesting is that we found that although this product has a huge sentimental value because it's associated with someone you care about or you love, you do not use it mainly because you don't necessarily see the functional value of the good anymore. It was an old piece that was purchased long ago, and you see it more as a totem, something you want to keep at home, but you leave it somewhere in a drawer, and then it gets lost. Because if you don't use it over time, you will not offer this product a second life. And then your kids will not see you and will not associate with you with this handbag. And in the end, it will be lost after 2 generations.
Is there not a tension in that if I'm a luxury brand and I'm selling something and marketing it as this will last forever or this is timeless, does that not erode future sales? In a way, you need to, this is a great promise to make, but you also want a new consumer down the line, or you want someone to buy next season's collection. So what's the motivation for the luxury brands to make one of their pieces have a prolonged life?
First, we can question whether for luxury brands, the ultimate goal is to sell the next collection. It really sounds like very fast fashion business model in a way. And I don't feel that this should be the mission of luxury brands. The luxury brands are preserving a certain heritage in the know-how, but also in the products that they're selling. And for this reason, it's important that they are really associated with quality that will last over time. And so that's why they need to be able to repair or even refresh. And this is something that luxury brands don't necessarily do, how to refresh a piece or upcycle to make it new again. I would say also that we are in a world where consumers switch from one brand to the next. And to be a brand lover, you need to have this sentimental link, attachment to the brand. And when you inherit a piece from your grandparents, for instance, that carries already this sentimental value, it's really an opportunity for the brand to create a new and a deep relationship with the consumer over time.
Can you name any other luxury brands, either in fashion or in other related industries, that are doing sustainability very well, that are really walking the walk and changing their processes and their practices in order to be more sustainable?
I would say that the example, when we talked about sustainability, the example is Stella McCartney. I was also impressed when I visited some champagne maison in Reims last year with my students. We visited the factory of Piper IT, the first champagne maison to be certified, to be B Corp certified. And you can see also that they are living the sustainable and climate change crisis really concretely, because they see that it's harder and harder to produce the champagne at the same quality level due to climate change. And you see that it's not only communication when they talk about these issues. It's not only communicating about them. It's really deep inside their way of envisioning the future and their future, that they have to change their habits. So they are super creative also in the way they produce their champagne. They are exploring a lot of different ways, and they have a lab. So it was really great to have this exchange, because it feels really genuine and deep to their DNA, brand DNA.
Now, you're the co-director of the Global Research Alliance in Luxury. Can you just tell me a little bit about that? Is that an ESCP initiative? You say it's global, so does it involve brands? Who does it involve?
It's an ESCP initiative, indeed. It involves, first of all, scholars, researchers from ESCP, and also co-authors of researchers from ESCP, which makes the community international. We are also inviting scholars to talk about their research. And we want in the future to integrate more relationship with companies. So we work at ESCP with affiliates who are former professionals. So Olivier Nicolai, who was top manager at Chanel. And we are lucky also in our specialized master in luxury to have a course that is taught by Cyril Vigneron, from ex-CEO from Cartier. And these people are also here when we talk about research, because we want their insight. We want to be relevant for the market in the way we do our research.
Okay, so obviously luxury is changing quite a lot, and we have the impact of social media and the vast changes in wealth that we're seeing around the world, with enormous wealth concentrated in a few people's hands. And that's really driven luxury, or one end of luxury. And then we also see this backlash potentially. So what does the future of luxury look like in your opinion?
First, there will always be a status economy because status is one of our key drivers as individuals and human beings, and even a fundamental need in some way. Now, how to address this need for status will definitely change. And I think it will go along with more connection to craftsmanship, to art, and creating deep symbolic and sentiments of value with the consumer.
What do you think? Do you have any idea what that would look like? Will there be luxury in other aspects of our life that we don't consider? For instance, now luxury might be an incredible hotel stay or a wonderful holiday or a handbag or a piece of fashion. Could there be a luxury AI model in the future?
I think that to understand what will be luxury in the future, you need to understand what is lacking, what is a scarce resource. So together with Professor Benoyer, we wrote this piece on how time is luxury today and how luxury brands can save you time, offer you time, or make the most of your time. And this is also a way to think about creating additional services, adding value to your goods. Indeed, AI can help you save time. So in a way, you could integrate some AI parts, although I feel that luxury brands are really close to human world.
Yeah, the sort of physical sensation. But time is very interesting, and you do see certain luxury services, for instance, concierge services and services in hotels, where what they're trying to do is maximize your time or save you time or take some of the less interesting tasks away from you. How could a luxury fashion brand, for example, use that? Or what did you and it's Ben Voyer, the professor, what did you find in that study where time was important? How can brands use that?
There are different ways in which luxury brands can use and play around this notion of time of consumers. Something that I really like, an example, I'm working in one of my classes with a restaurant brand, a recent novel restaurant brand, which is called Attica. And they created this restaurant that is completely immersive with the idea that your stay in the restaurant will last maybe 2 hours, but it will be an entire travel. And they build a food experience on a certain destination. So you go to Corsica, you go to different places with food, but with the 5 senses, actually. And what I found really interesting when the founder pitched the idea and the concept is that he said that the restaurant is located in a former cinema theater and there is no internet connection. And for me, this is what is true luxury. When you offer yourself a trip, it will last only 2 hours, but you will travel somewhere really different from Paris and you make the most of your time.
It's interesting as well, the lack of connection can be a true luxury. And you see that as well in very, very high-end vacations that offer you vacations but without any internet access.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Perrine. That was fantastic. That was really fascinating. Perrine Desmichel is the Assistant Professor of Marketing and the Co-Director of the Global Research Alliance in Luxury. You've been watching ESCP Edge. Tune in next time for more fascinating conversations with ESCP professors at the forefront of business research.